Hey, Heel 4600, Glenn here. I wanted to take a minute here and talk about the vanishing of the bees video that we all watched. In Vanishing of the Bees, it got me really thinking about an issue that I otherwise would not have thought about at all, realistically, and that is bees. Over time, we've heard a lot about bees and how important they are, but I never really truly understood how important they are to everything that surrounds us. Take this field for instance. It's an open field. Some of the serious issues or concerns that I left with after watching the video was how corrupt the EPA is. To get a product regulated by the EPA, you provide them with your own research study. That doesn't make sense to me. That's like me saying that this new drug works without me even theoretically testing it or caring about the long-term effects of the organism. In my opinion, like the farmers said in the video, the EPA is just wanting money. They're not really caring about the farmers, they're not really caring about the environment. All they care about is the money they are getting. And sadly, in today's economy and today's world, large-scale companies are the ones with the money. And they're also the ones that care very little about what happens to local people. After watching Vanishing of the Bees, I really got an understanding of what beekeeping is like on the ground level. I understood how hard it is and how time-consuming and the effort that goes in to basically just keeping bees alive. Vanishing of the Bees allowed me insight into knowledge I never would have acquired. I never would have understood that to have a bee farm, make money from having a bee farm, is by driving across the country to pollinate other farmers' fields. That's something I never would have imagined. It also comes with a risk. During the video, the farmers said that they drove and pollinated other farmers' crops for them. And that got me thinking, because these pesticides have these sublethal effects that don't necessarily show symptoms right away, by taking your bees on long-term distances, that must put them through a lot of stress. And theoretically, bee farmers cannot be sure that the fields that they are bringing their bees to have been fertilized with crops that don't have these negative effects. Sure, they could be told that, but I could also tell you that your shoe's untied. That doesn't mean it's true. These sublethal effects, as shown in the video, explain to a disorder called CCD, colony collapse disorder. And what colony collapse disorder is a very strange type of disorder in my opinion. It doesn't cause death per se, like a regular medical illness would. It causes the bees to get lost in transportation. That's a scary thought to me, because if we thought of bees as humans and we subjected humans to some form of chemical that they are being subjected to, it just simply wouldn't stand. It just wouldn't. After watching the video, it left me with some sincere regrets, actually. I never took the time to actually think about what product I was buying at the store, or where a product comes from, or how these fields that we see that are open can make such a big change in our environment. A possible solution to creating a safer and better environment for the bees, and ultimately ourselves, because we rely on the bees so much, is to take these open fields and provide an incentive for farmers or whoever owns this plot of land to actually have hives and maintain hives. One idea is to provide an incentive via tax break for farmers if they do have a certain amount of hives. Another solution would be, it's kind of a two-step process or an either-or process. It could be to provide a tax break for people who buy locally. That is, cut the PST by 2 or 3% on products that are grown or made or sourced in Canada compared to products we import. By cutting this sales tax down, the local products are actually being more competitive with the imported products. As the video mentioned, local beehive farmers can't sell their honey because it's just too expensive for them. And the synthetic honey that's being shipped from India or China that's not 100% real can be sold for way cheaper. By implementing the cut in PST tax, we can provide a better opportunity for local beehive farmers and local growers of any fruits, vegetables, or any product to have a competitive, maybe not a competitive advantage, but at least be on the same playing field, so it is fair. The next, it comes to consumers. The consumers have to be able to recognize buying local versus buying imported products. A way a store could do this is by creating a couple aisles that are for imported goods and a couple aisles for produced locally goods. We've started to see some of this in the Sobeys with the natural product line, but even after doing some research on my own and going to the grocery store, it's really hard to see where the apples you are buying, for instance, where they actually come from. If you have signs that say local, that could mean that you are still buying products from Ontario or Alberta. Yes, that is in the country, and yes, that helps our economy, but that doesn't help the people who are your neighbors. Farmers in Manitoba produce copious amounts of goods that are ready to be consumed by Manitobans. If stores would implement, we take a couple dollars off their final bill for buying locally, we could not only support the farmers, but we could support the environment as well. Promote buying locally would be allowing companies that are within a certain radius to advertise on local networks and radio for free. This would at least get the knowledge out that these companies are here, because I believe a lot of people don't actually know where they're buying their products from. It's just not something they look at, right? And lastly, after watching this video, I realized that the call to action starts now. We can't waste any more time. We need to put in more effort in actually looking at where we're buying our products from. It takes 2 seconds to read a bag, and if it costs 50 cents more to save your own backyard, I think that 50 cents is worth it. Lastly, it's going to help our local economy, and it's going to save these beautiful fields that we have here, are so lucky to have here in Canada and Manitoba, from becoming parking lots. We have all this land. We should start using it for good and supporting the people who are trying to use our local land for good.